may be seated. Just one moment until the reporter's ready.
Dr. Lohman, yes or no, is it your testimony that Mr. DeBose was a completely healthy individual on July 19, 2016?
No.
Thank you. And it's your testimony that the bullet that caused his death entered the top left portion of his head, proceeded on a downward trajectory, and exited the right side of his head, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Very good. Redirect.
No redirect, thanks, Judge.
Very good. Is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Matthews, any objection?
No objection.
All right, doctor, thank you for your time. You are free to leave the building. Have a good day.
We need a short recess.
Very good. Just counsel approach real quickly. This is off the record. State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, with the exception of taking all of our exhibits, so we'll have it.
Very good. Counsel in chambers. This will be very brief, ladies and gentlemen. Take your time, please. Just before you call your witness, Mr. Matthews, I am mindful of the time, folks, I understand, but I've promised you 1 o'clock, we'll adhere to that. I apologize, sir, please come forward. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Very good. Have a seat, pull the microphone down to you.
Sir, will you start out by stating your name and spelling your last name for the record, please?
Name's Jeffrey Van Pelt, V-A-N space P-E-L-T.
And Mr. Van Pelt, by whom are you employed?
University of Cincinnati Police Department,
For how long have you been so employed?
approximately 2.5 years.
Were you on duty on July 19th, 2015?
Yes, sir.
What time did you start working that day?
3 p.m.
And were you assigned to a particular beat that day?
I was.
Were you working with Ray Tenzing?
Yes, sir.
And you know Ray Tenzing?
Yes, sir.
Is that Ray Tenzing seated at council table back there?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury if you had occasion to come into contact with Mr. Tenzing at about 6:30 p.m. on July 19th?
I did.
And what was the reason for that?
I responded to what I heard over the radio, that shots were fired, and I responded to his location.
Okay. Had you had occasion prior to that to have any contact with Mr. Tenzing on July 19th?
I did.
When was that?
We were on a few traffic stops before the shooting happened.
Do you remember where those occurred?
One was on East McMillan, and the other one was in Bellevue Park.
Thank you. When you arrived on, when you heard the shots fired on the radio, you responded to Phil Street and
Yes, sir.
Rice. What did you find upon your arrival?
When I arrived, Mr. DeBose's car was crashed into a telephone pole in a hillside. Officer Kidd, Officer Lenishman, Officer Tenzing were standing outside of the car, and I took a traffic post on Rice Street just south of Valencia.
Did you have occasion to observe Officer Tenzing?
I did.
What, if anything, did you observe about his demeanor at that time?
He looked scared to death, and to me, he appeared white as a ghost. I've never seen him like that.
Were you able to observe anything about the condition of his uniform?
I was.
What did you see?
I noticed that his handcuff case was scraped, and his pants were marked. Looked like it had a scrape on his pants.
Did you observe any injuries on or about his person?
I did not, but I did notice him shaking his left arm and looking down at his left elbow.
Did he make any statements to you about what had occurred?
Sustained.
I have nothing further.
Thank you. Cross?
No questions, Your Honor?
Very good. You may step down, sir. Is this witness excused, Mr. Matthews?
Yes.
Very good. You are free to leave the building. Is any objection from the state on that? Very good. Thank you. Defense is calling their next witness. Ms. Callender getting him. Very good. Sir, come on around here. Would you please, before you take a seat, raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I did.
Very good. Take a seat. Pull the microphone down to you.
Sir, will you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Derek Noland, N-O-L-A-N-D,
Mr. Noland, by whom are you employed?
University of Cincinnati.
And in what capacity?
I'm a police officer there.
For how long?
About 2.5 years.
And were you so employed and on duty on July 19th, 2015?
I was.
Prior to 6:30 p.m. on that date, did you have occasion to have any contact with Ray Tenzing?
I did.
Was he working that day?
He was.
What was the nature of your contact with him?
I believe I had multiple contacts with him. He backed me up on a traffic stop that day. We have briefing together. And what for.
Is it correct that UC police officers were very active in making traffic stops?
That is correct.
Why was that?
We were told to go out, be proactive, make traffic stops, and that's what we did.
And that included areas off of campus, correct?
It did.
At about 6:30 p.m. on July 19th, did you have occasion to respond to the area of Phil and Rice Street?
I did.
And what was the reason for that?
Really radio communication.
Were you operating a one-man cruiser at that point?
I was.
And where did you respond from?
I had a traffic stop myself. I was southbound on Jefferson. From there, I abandoned the traffic stop I was in to go back up Officer Tenzing.
And what did you find when you arrived at Rice and Phil?
When I arrived, Officer Kidd and Lyndon Schmidt were already there. I exited my cruiser. I see Officer Tenzing's cruiser. Officer, I guess, Lyndon Schmidt was operating the cruiser. And, at that point, I observed all three officers down the street. I returned back to my cruiser and headed that way.
And did you have contact with Officer Tenzing?
Briefly.
Were you able to observe his demeanor?
I was.
What did you notice?
He appeared very white, very almost just shocked, kind of. I've never seen him like that.
Did he appear mad or upset
No, he did not.
or angry?
No, he did not.
Did you observe his uniform?
I did.
Did you observe anything about its condition?
Only thing that I can recall observing about his uniform is his shirt. The back of his shirt seems slightly untucked. And that may be a weird thing to observe, but Officer Tenzing always, his shirt was in order, his uniform was in order, and his shirt was always tightly tucked.
And did you observe any injuries on or about him?
Not that I could observe.
Did you see him moving his body in any particular way?
He was shaking his left hand, like repeatedly up and down a little bit.
Were you able to determine why?
No, I was not able to determine at that time.
Nothing further.
Very good. Cross?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. Is this witness excused, Mr. Matthews?
Yes, Judge.
Any objection? Very good, sir. You are excused. You're free to leave the building. Thank you. Let's call your next witness.
Police Officer Thomas Wells.
Officer, if you could come around the back of the monitor, please. Thank you. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Very good. Take a seat and pull the microphone down to you.
Officer, will you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Tom Wells, W-E-L-L-S,
And Officer Wells, by whom are you employed?
Cincinnati Police, District 4.
For how long?
Going on 22 years, sir.
Were you on duty on July 19th, 2015 at approximately 6:30 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Where were you assigned at that time?
I was running Walnut Hills in District 4.
And was that a particular beat that you were normally assigned to?
Yes, sir.
Does Does that beat include Vine and Phil?
That is not, it's part of District 4, but it is not my beat.
Did you have occasion to respond to the area of Vine and Phil or Rice and Phil?
Yes, yes, sir.
What was the occasion?
Got a report, one of the UC units came on our channel and said that there had been a shooting, and I responded to the scene of the shooting.
When you arrived, what, if anything, did you observe?
I observed, when I got on scene, I did not know that it was a police-involved shooting. I just thought it was a shooting that they had rolled up on. And I observed a wrecked car at Valencia and Rice Street. And Mr. DeBose was in the car.
And you determined then that it was an officer-involved shooting?
I somehow found, yeah, I'd been there on scene for a minute or two, or a couple minutes, and learned that it was a police-involved shooting.
Did you have any contact with Ray Tenzing?
I did not have any contact with Mr. Tenzing.
Did you observe him?
I did see Mr. Tenzing at the scene.
What, if anything, did you see about him?
Mr. Tenzing was, when I observed him, was over by Sergeant Carter, who was, and Sergeant Asbury, or supervisors that arrived on scene.
They're both with Cincinnati Police Department?
Yes, sir. And I walked over there and got my orders from Sergeant Carter to start securing witnesses. And I did see Mr. Tenzing.
Did you observe anything about him, either his physical condition or the condition of his
I did
body?
notice that he was holding his arm and kind of rubbing it, and that I did notice some discoloration on the back of his pants.
And did you have any conversation with him?
I did not talk to Mr. Tenzing.
Okay. Did Officer Tenzing, were you able to determine, did he appear angry to you at any point?
No, sir, but I didn't have really much interaction with Mr. Tenzing.
Officer Wells, during your career, have you ever reached into an occupied vehicle?
I have, sir.
Frequently?
No, sir. Sometimes the circumstances require you to reach into a vehicle.
Even though you know you probably shouldn't, correct?
Yes, sir.
Ross? Very good. Is this witness excused, Mr. Matthews?
Yes, Judge.
Any objection? Very good. Thank you, officer, for your time. You are free to leave the building.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Defense prepared to call another witness?
Yes, Judge. I'm not sure. I think we have one other witness out there, Sergeant Asbury, I believe. Judge, follow wait on that. Quick, real quick. I don't think we need to go chambers.
Okay. Very good. The media is instructed to not photograph, video, record, name, or just photograph, video, or record this witness. Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand before you take a seat. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Very good. Please take a seat and pull the microphone down to you.
Sergeant Asbury, will you state your full name for the record, please?
Nathan Asbury,
And spell your last name?
Asbury,
And by whom are you employed?
Cincinnati Police Department.
What is your current assignment?
Currently assigned to the Gang Enforcement Squad as a supervisor.
And did you have a different assignment on July 31st or July 19th of 2015?
Yes, I did. I was assigned to District 3.
And were you on duty that day?
I was on duty that night, and I was working off-duty detail during the day.
And you responded to the location of Vine or Phil and Rice Street, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's not in District 3 where you were assigned at that time?
Correct.
Why did you respond to that location?
I was working the off-duty detail in District 4 where the incident occurred, and was on my way to District 3 at the time, and happened to be close by.
So you responded.
Yes, sir.
What did you find upon your arrival?
When I first arrived, as I was walking from Phil to Rice, I saw there was a UC SUV police car parked in the middle of the street. And as I walked up the hill, I saw there was a car that had been crashed into a pole on the left-hand side, and there were 3 UCL police officers that were standing in the street.
Did you later learn that one of those UC police officers was Raymond Tenzing?
Yes.
Did you observe anything about him at that point?
Several things. The first thing I saw that he was standing talking to the 2 other individuals. He was like looking at his arm, and has pulled his pant leg up a little bit and was looking at his knee.
Did he appear angry to you?
No.
Were you able to assess as a layman what his mental condition appeared to be?
Calm at that point?
Okay. Did you have occasion to have further contact with him?
I did.
And what was that?
I transported him to UC Hospital.
And how far was UC Hospital approximately from the location at Vine or at Phil and Rice?
Maybe 2 or 3 miles.
And during that time, did you have any conversation with Officer Tenzing?
Yes.
What was that?
Sustain, rephrase.
When you arrived, did Officer Tenzing leave his body cam video on?
Yes.
During the course of that transport?
Yes, sir.
And when you arrived at University Hospital, did you accompany him into the emergency room?
Yes, sir.
And were you there when he was examined?
I was.
What, if anything, did you see at that point?
When the medical staff examined him, he complained of a...
Sustain. Just what you observed, sir, what you saw.
I saw an abrasion to his left knee and a swelling and redness on his left forearm.
And how long did you stay at the hospital?
It was into the evening. I'm not sure exactly. It was maybe a couple hours, 3 hours maybe.
Did you transport Officer Tenzing after that in place?
I did not.
Thank you. I have nothing.
Cross. Very good. May this witness be released, Mr. Matthews?
Yes, Judge.
Any objection? Very good. You're free to go, Sergeant. Thank you for your time. The defense has one remaining witness, correct?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, great.
Sergeant Daniel Carter.
Very good. Come on around this side, Sergeant Carter. Before taking a seat, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Have a seat and pull the microphone down to you.
Sergeant Carter, will you start out by stating your name and spelling your last name, please?
My name is Dan Carter, last name C-A-R-D-E-R.
And you are employed by the Cincinnati Police Division?
Yes, sir.
For how long have you been so employed?
About 24 and a half years.
What is your current assignment?
I am currently assigned to District 1, second shift patrol.
Were you so assigned on July the 19th, 2015?
No, sir. I was assigned to District 4, second shift patrol.
Second shift patrol?
Yes, sir.
What were those hours on that day?
I think I was working 1 to 11.
So you were on duty at 6:30 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Did you have occasion to respond to Rice and Phil Street?
Yes, sir.
And why?
There was an officer needs assistance run that came out, and when I arrived, there was a lot of traffic, cars parked. So I got out and walked up the street. They had disregarded the assistance run just as I was arriving, and I walked up, excuse me, and there were some University of Cincinnati police officers, and one of them was stringing some crime scene tape across the bottom of the hill, and I believed that they had come up on a homicide, and as we were walking up the hill, one of them, I don't recall which one of them it was, he was running the tape. He said, it happened right here. And I'm like, okay. And thought about it for a second, and one of the guys that was walking with me, and we kind of looked at each other, and the UC guy was like, yeah, it happened right here. And we turned around, and I looked at him, and we asked him, like, did one of you do this? And he was like, yeah, it was like the guy up there. And once I learned it was an intervention shooting, I gave him the timeout. I'm like, ooh, everybody be quiet.
Why did you do that?
Well, in a police intervention shooting, just like with anything else, they have the right to remain silent. Most of them lack the ability, but with the officers, once I learned that there's an intervention shooting.
When you refer to intervention shooting, you're referring to a shooting involving a
A
police
police officer firing shots.
Okay.
That is a police intervention shooting.
Okay.
Once that has occurred, my role as a responding supervisor, I'm a basic fact finder. I need to know, is everybody all right? Who was involved? Where did it begin? Obviously we know where it ended. And are there any suspects still at large? That's pretty much my role as a responding supervisor. I'm not there to ask any investigative questions other than, is there anybody still at large? I've been to, a lot of these, and the officers, my first concern is, are they all right? Is there anybody at large? Just like I explained. And do we make sure anybody that needs aid gets it? Good guys or bad, doesn't matter. We get medical into the scene. We secure any kind of evidence that's obvious, and rope it off with crime scene tape.
Did you determine that Officer Raymond Tenzing was the UC officer involved in this shooting?
Yeah, the officer at the bottom of the hill pointed to him, and I went up to the top towards the top of the hill, and he was still up there at that time.
Did you have any contact with him?
I asked him if he was all right, and kind of kept him, close to where I was at. They're from another agency, and their sergeant was on the scene. He's a new sergeant, and I don't think that I think it's Weibel is how to pronounce his name, but I don't think, Sergeant Weibel was prepared for this incident.
What did you do?
Well, I asked him if he would like me to assist him, and he said,
Ask him who? Officer Sergeant Weibel?
Sergeant Weibel.
Okay.
I asked him if he would like me to assist him, and he said yes. And I also asked him if he wanted our guys to handle it, because it is another agency. They have options on who can process the scene. They could have BCI do it, the sheriff's office do it, they could do it themselves, or they could have our guys do it.
Did you observe Officer Tenzing, or was he complaining of any injuries when you saw him?
Not initially. He was shaking his hand, like he'd hit his funny bone. I asked him about it, and he said his hand was numb. And I tried not to ask him too many questions. Once I learned he was the involved officer, I assigned Sergeant Asbury as a control officer to him, and somewhere around there, Sergeant Weibel stated that his chain of command wanted us, meaning Cincinnati Homicide, to handle the scene. So once he stated that it's my scene, I stepped it up a little bit, and I assigned officers to the other UC officers. I had the control officer with Officer Tenzing, and it took a few minutes before we had everything locked down. And Officer Tenzing, the whole time that he was there, he kept shaking his hand and straightening his arm, and I asked him about it, and he said that he'd banged it up, and I was trying to get the officers off the scene, so I looked at my control officers for the witnesses, and I told them, said, get them off the scene, get them some air conditioning, get them something cold to drink, and I was going to do the same for Officer Tenzing, but he started, hanging onto his arm, and so I looked at him, and he blanched, his face went white, and he was sweating. It looked like he started sweating a little bit more. So I told Sergeant Asbury to get him off the scene and get him to the hospital.
And did you notice anything about his uniform at that point?
He had some dirt on his backside, on his rear, and on his back.
Did you notice anything about his equipment?
His flashlight was in the street, down at the bottom of the hill.
You saw that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did Officer Tenzing appear to be angry or mad to you?
Kind of looked like he was stunned.
Like he was?
Stunned.
Okay.
It's a critical incident.
I don't have anything further.
Very good. Cross?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. Is this witness released?
Yes, Judge.
Any objection? Very good. Thank you very much, Sergeant.
Yes, ma'am.
You're free to leave the building.
Judge, I think our next witnesses will be Reverend Wayne and I would request that.
Very good. That's what we'll do. Ladies and gentlemen, remember the admonitions. Do not discuss this case among yourselves. Do not allow anyone to discuss it with you. Do not form or express an opinion about the case until it is finally submitted to you. Do not have any contact with media, television, radio, online. Do not post anything about this case. We'll see you back at the meeting location tomorrow morning at 8:30. Thank you. All rise for the jury. You may be seated. State 1 minute to get your evidence in order before we admit. Very good.
Judge, on page 1, I believe all the exhibits except 2E, which was withdrawn, have been admitted with not review all those evidence at this point.
All except 2E, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Very good. That means States Exhibit 1, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D, 2F, 2G, 2H, 2I, 2J, 2K, 2L, 2M, 2N, 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B are all admitted.
Going to the second page, we would ask that the 5A through 5E, 6A through 6C, 7A through 7D, and 8A through 8O. And I think they're all in, but not review all those amendments.
Very good. All those exhibits will be admitted.
Third page, 8P through 8U, 9A through 9I, 10 through 15, we did not use 16 or identify it, 17 through 19. The Scott Dukes photos were remarked as 21A and 21B, and then the Grand Frederick Stump drone was 20. Again, all of those, including those, which may not be evidence yet, we have to admit.
Any objection?
No, that was.
Second, it's in fact 20.
And then I thought it was 21A and B.
My question is in regards to 9I. I don't have that on.
That was a photo of the steering wheel, which was used for Shannon Ryan. It's the one where the defendant had marked where his hand went, and he initialed it. It was used during the interview. Okay.
Okay, to that or to any of the others, correct? Just for clarification. Very good, they'll be admitted.
On the next page, 22A and 22B were identified by my attorney I believe today. Rule 23 by Dr. Noland, and then 24A through 24J, all with Dr. Noland. 25, I believe, was previously stipulated to, and then 26 was the live photo of Mr. Rose. Asked all of those also to be admitted. The only ones we object to are 24A through J, which my objection previously.
Very good. My question is 21A. You didn't mention that.
That was on the previous
That's,
page.
okay, so remove 21A from this final page. Okay. Right?
Yes.
You've accounted for that. Oh, I see. All right, very good. Over the defense objection to 24A through J, all of the items on that final page will be admitted.
Pursuant to agreement of counsel, or
Very good. State rests. Again on the record, and we'll be prepared to begin tomorrow. Did you want to put any?
Judge, I just wanted to note the record and note in this order that we have previously made and we was on Rule 29 motion.
Very good. The record will so reflect that the Rule 29 motion was made in chambers and has been overruled by the court. We will see you all at 9 tomorrow morning. Thank you. We have, that's what I was calling you over for. Well, we can just provide you at least with something to take with you. We'll have